Morning, brothers and sisters. I found another chapter that I thought we'd just tag on to our last video concerning Daniel chapter 8 and Psalm 74. And this is just another chapter that really really pulls it all together is what it does. And I wanted to discuss the term black, okay? So that we get clear that with God, it truly is a term of allegory that God is using. It's not an actual, color of the skin, yet it appears that way. But God's using it as an allegory, and we get that allegory in Lamentations, but we'll look at it after we look at the chapter in Lamentations that we want to connect to Psalm 74 and Daniel. So the chapter that we want to look at in Lamentations is Lamentations 2. All right, now we know Jeremiah was considered the weeping prophet, and this is one that he wrote. He lamented, he cried, he wept for the daughters of Zion. He saw their destruction. He witnessed their sacrifice for what the harlot did, for what fallen Adam did, for what these wicked men were bringing in, for what the harlots were coming in to do to the righteous daughters. And just as Mother God cast her anger down, took her wrath out on the Son on the cross, she is shown doing it here to the daughters of Zion, that she casts out into the fields of the Gentiles. I don't care what anybody says, that's what's going on here. And it says God punished Zion, all right? And that is the daughter Zion. It says daughter Zion, but it also has the daughters of Zion that are being punished, the righteous daughters. And so here we go. It says, and we're going to link this back to what was going on in Daniel 8 to the hosts casting down the principle of great God Almighty was being cast down. Well, that's what's going on here. All right, so we're looking at allegorical terms as well. And in Psalm 74, they were burning the sanctuaries to the ground. Well, here we get that with the tabernacle of the daughter of Zion being burned to the ground, being took out. And its mother handing over the host, the vineyard, over to the wicked principle. All right? And yet the allegory is that it's she herself doing it. So you'll understand as we read it. So Lamentations 2. How hath the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud, with a witness, in her anger? It's got his. They're always going to put him. That's what they're going to do. So, because I know that it's the spirit, I know the world turned their back on the daughter, on the mother. Mother got mad. Mother took her wrath out on the daughters, the harlots, but she did it through the righteous daughters of Zion. That's what's going on here. It tells you this. The more you read, the more you understand. How had the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud in her anger, and cast down from heaven unto the earth the beauty of Israel. That's the glory of Israel. That's your daughter Zion that got cast down. All right? That's what this is saying. This takes us to Daniel, does it not? What was going on with Daniel. And remember, not her footstool in the day of her anger. Verse 2. The Lord hath swallowed up all the habitations of Jacob, it says, of Israel, and had not pitied. She has thrown down in her wrath, just like she did to Christ, the strongholds of the daughter of Judah. Now you watch what the strongholds of the daughter of Judah is daughter Zion. She hath brought them down to the ground. She has polluted the kingdom and the principles thereof, or the princesses. All right, because that's what the daughters of Zion are. They're royalty. They're daughters of royalty. That's why they're called daughters of Judah. All right, that's another name that they go by. Now, they're cast down. You see that? What does it say in the very first verse? It says, how had the Lord covered? The Lord here is 136. That's daughter Zion's title. All right, that's her number, right? And she sits to Christ's right hand. Now, this is the spirit that inhabited these daughters in a mighty way, called daughters of Zion. All right? And she's the one that sits between the cherubim. All right? And it's mother that she sits beside or with as her right hand. Now here she's casting these daughters down because she has authority. She's God. oh no, there's no female that's God. God don't exist in a female. God can only use a male form to exist in. Well, aren't you kind of limiting God when you say that? God can't exist in a female form, huh? Wow, don't that sound man-made? But this is daughter Zion, all right, who inhabited these daughters. Now, how had the Lord covered the daughter of Zion? With a cloud, with a witness. She's actually witnessing against them now. She's turning on them. This congregation that she inhabited, that are hers, they're her inheritance given to her by mother, with a cloud in her anger, and cast down from heaven unto the earth the beauty of Israel. Now, if that ain't the daughters of Zion, I don't know what it is. Because this whole chapter tells you it's the daughters of Zion that's in view. And beauty of Israel, and remembered not her footstool in the day of her anger. Now, let's go back to Daniel. For those who think I'm wrong about what was going on in Daniel. Daniel 8, let's backtrack to who was causing this, all right? And we'll backtrack to verse 8 of Daniel. Therefore, the he-goat, these are your male rulers who took possessions, all right? They took control of Mount Zion as the rulers. And Mother often refers to the rulers of this world. She refers to the wicked rulers of this world as he-goats. But your rightful rulers are called she-goats, and they're known as the daughters of Zion. Why do you think that's so? Well, I think it's so because of the covenant in Genesis 15:9. Let's go to Genesis 15:9 to verify this. This is God's promise made back to restore them back. Genesis 15:9. And she said unto him, take me an heifer. That's a representation of the nation of Israel. Of 3 years old. That's 36 months, isn't it? 3 sixes. That's a symbol of a covenant, 36 months. And a she-goat. Look at that. A she-goat in this covenant, a heifer in this covenant, a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram. Gee, I wonder who the ram is. Christ. He's a representation of the righteous sons being restored back. All right? Just as the she-goats are being restored back to the rightful place. And Israel, heifer, is being restored back in this covenant. That's what this promise is of this covenant. That's the symbols here. Now, and she said unto him, take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove and a young pigeon. So there's 5 animals there in the cutting of this sacred covenant. It's a covenant between Mother God, and each one of these symbolizes something that is to be restored back. All right? And 3 of these are female, and 2 are male. But we'll flip it off and say, well, don't mean nothing. Well, that's why when you go here to Daniel 8, you get a reference to he-goat, the he-goat, right? And what does it say? Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong through the harlot, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones towards the 4 winds of heaven. So the harlot spirit that he exalted eventually broke down into 4 and took control of the 4 corners of the world. All right? With false doctrines. By your false rulers, he-goats, who were your men of Baal, your Marduks, your kings that were exalted as your rulers in the earth. No mention of queen. We took her position completely away from her. So wax great. 4 notable ones towards the 4 winds of heaven. That's the spirit that becomes exalted in the second heaven. That's your harlot spirit becoming exalted. Lucifer, Babylon, daughter Babylon is her name. The righteous spirit is called daughter Zion. Verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. There we have pleasant land. All right, now we're going to stop there. All right, because God always refers to the daughter Zion as pleasant land. It's interesting because the name that the daughter Zion, and it was the daughter Zion, in Zechariah 11 was instructed to take 2 staffs unto herself, not himself, And one of the names that she writes there means pleasant. All right? So, and the other one was a representation of her personal inheritance, which was the daughters of Zion, which represented Israel, the nation of Israel. All right, so, and forward and east and toward the pleasant land. Now watch what it says here in Lamentations 2 of the daughter of Zion being cast down. How hath the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud in her anger, and cast down from heaven unto the earth the beauty of Israel, the glory. That's the daughter of Zion. And remembered not her footstool in the day of her anger. Verse 2. The Lord had swallowed up all the habitation of Jacob, Israel, that's Judah and Israel, and had not pitied. She has thrown down in her wrath the strongholds of the daughter of Judah, that's daughter of Zion, stronghold that gets mentioned in Micah 4 or 5, I can't remember. She had brought them down to the ground. Right? Remember? The starry host of heaven was cast down to the ground. She hath polluted the kingdoms and the princes thereof, the princesses. Verse 3, she hath cut off in her fierce anger all the horn of Israel, the spiritual power. That's the daughters of Zion. Your spiritual power is always feminine. It's never masculine. Your physical power is masculine. Your spiritual power is feminine. And your spiritual power is represented by the horns that are exalted. And so here she cuts off the horn of Israel. That's the daughters of Zion, the righteous daughters of Zion. Their power is cut off. All right, the spiritual power, their spiritual ability here is cut off. All right, so she hath cut off in her fierce anger all the horn of Israel. She hath drawn back her right hand. She has pulled it away from before the enemy, and she burned against Israel like a flaming fire which devoureth round about. Now she came against these righteous daughters of Israel. My nose is itching. She had bent her bow like an enemy, like an adversary. Now that takes place when she hands over the host, all right, to the harlot that the men have exalted. All right, so she says, and we've discussed this, so I'm not going to go into where it's all found and all that detail. But she says, if they want the implements of a wicked shepherd, then give it to them. So here she gives it to them, all right? But you're seeing it play out in allegory in the hosts of heaven in Daniel 8, all right? When that harlot, which is exalted to the principle, the original principle here, called daughter Zion, which is being cast down to the ground by those he-goats, who are exalting the harlot now into the midst of the second heaven. And Mother says, fine, they can have the host. So she hands them over. That's what you see in allegory in Daniel 8, all right? So I don't know if that came out right, if you understand what I'm saying. Verse 4, she had bent her bow, her covenant, all right? Like an enemy, she stood with her right hand as an adversary and slew all that were pleasant. There's that word pleasant to the eye in the tabernacle of the daughter of Zion. So they were pleasant. They were beautiful. They were a delight to Mother. Her daughters are a delight to her. And that's what it says here. It says in verse 9 of Daniel chapter 8, it says, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great towards the south, towards the east, and towards the pleasant land. All right? So this is playing out here now, all right, in allegory. And there's real historical events that takes place of countries and whatnot coming against and causing all of this to really take place in one sense. But here we're looking at the allegory of it all. So, okay, let's read verse 4 again in Lamentations 2. She had bent her bow, that's her covenant, like an enemy. She stood with her right hand as an adversary and slew all that were pleasant to the eye in the tabernacle of the daughter of Zion. She poured out her fury like a fire. Well, she did the same thing to Christ on the cross. She was angry. But you have tabernacles here. And it is a different word than sanctuary, but you see the sanctuaries again being cast down in Psalm 74, where Mother met with her daughters of Zion. She allowed the men and that had exalted the harlot spirit to have what they wanted. She said, fine, they don't want my daughters, they won't have them. And so, because of what the harlot did, Mother poured out her wrath on the daughters of Zion. All right. Verse 5. The Lord was as an enemy. She has swallowed up Israel. She has swallowed up all her palaces. She has destroyed her strongholds, and hath increased in the daughter of Judah mourning and lamentations. Now we're coming up on the coloring here of what the color black comes to mean. It comes to mean mourning, lamentations, to be in a dry land where there is no doctrine. All right, and it's an allegory. Black is an allegory to losing truth. That's what that's an allegory to, and it is an allegory. All right. It's not saying, well, if you're this or if you're that, it means this. It does. God looks at the heart. That's what it tells us, plain as day. God don't look at the outward. God looks at the heart. Man looks at the outward. But it says, and increased in the daughter of Judah. That's the daughter of Zion. These are the daughters of royalty she's talking about, that she had a covenant with, that she cast down. Of Judah mourning and lamentations. Verse 6, and she hath violently taken away her tabernacle. All right, they got rid of the meeting places where God met with the daughter of Zion. These were cast down. The daily sacrifice was removed from these daughters, and all memory of their existence went out of existence. It's hidden here if you're willing to allow the Spirit to show it to you. But if you're not going to listen, you're just going to toss it aside. You'll never see it. You're not going to see it. It takes the Spirit showing you these things. It takes reasoning. That's why the Spirit says, come, let us reason together. It doesn't say go to commentary. It says come to the Spirit and reason these things out. And she has violently taken away her tabernacles as if it were a garden. She had destroyed her places of the assembly. That's where the congregation of her daughters of Zion met with her. The Lord has caused the solemn feasts and Sabbaths to be forgotten in Zion, and had despised in the indignation of her anger, not his, the king and the priest, the queen and the priest. So this is the daughter Zion and the priest, which would be a high priest. All right. So there you're looking at queen and priest. High priest, a kingly priest, is what Christ is called. And then you have the daughter Zion, who is the judge of all things, sitting to Christ's right hand, Psalm 110. But here, her indignation is took out on both. All right, you see that. They've got a king. It's not a king, it's a queen. And your priest is a high priest as Christ, what he represented. And the high priest would go in to the queen, the daughter Zion, who was in direct, contact with Mother God. And from there he would receive instructions. Verse 7, the Lord hath cast off her altar. She has abhorred her sanctuary. She has given up into the hand of the enemy the walls of her palaces. They have made a noise in the house of the Lord as in the day of a solemn feast. Verse 8, the Lord has purposed to destroy the wall of the daughter of Zion. You see, now she did this, and she used Solomon. She used others to do this too. There goes my nose itching again. But she used Solomon, and that's the key of David, the key of Solomon. The key of David is the daughters of Zion. But when King Solomon took control, he brought in the harlots that come in wave upon wave. It says we know how many wives he had and concubines. That's him building himself up. Men are just so important. They need 900 wives. I mean, come on. It's empowerment for the man. That's what it does to his brain. It empowers him. It makes him think he's greater. To have that many wives and concubines at his beck and call. And it's about power. And he chose harlots. He daubed the wall, the breach in David, his father's wall. He daubs it up. He closes it up. So it says the Lord has purposed to destroy the wall of the daughter of Zion. She has stretched out a line. She had not withdrawn her hand from destroying, and thereof she made the rampart and the wall to lament, and they languished together. Verse 9, her gates are sunk into the ground. She hath destroyed and broken her bars. Her queens and her princesses are among the Gentiles, and they are. The law is no more. Her prophets also find no vision from the Lord, her prophetesses. Now you can argue with me, there's no such thing as a prophetess. There was so. The land was full of them. They were in constant communication with Mother God, the Spirit, the God, Mother God. And she instructed them in how the lands were to be ruled, plain and simple. That's what you're looking at. But what does she say? She says, they are among the Gentiles now. The law is no more. The prophetesses also find no vision from the Lord. Watch what it says in Micah. Let's look at Micah here briefly. What does it say in Micah? It says in Micah 5 verse 8, and the remnant of Israel, not Jacob, shall be among the Gentiles, in the midst of many people as a lioness, not a lion, among the beasts of the forest as a young lioness among the flocks of sheep, who, if she go through, both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. These are the daughters of Zion reborn out in the fields of the Gentiles, where they were cast. All right? And they were cast down as the starry host from heaven, and the enemy trampled upon them when man determined that he did not want a covenant with the daughter of Zion anymore. And Mother God said, fine, give them what they want. And so you see that playing out in Daniel 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. Verse 9, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great towards the south, towards the east, and toward the pleasant land. Verse 10, and it waxed great even to the hosts of heaven. You see? And it cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. That's the daughters of Zion. You see? And you see that allegory in Lamentations 2, all playing out. Alright? Which takes us back to Psalm 74, where they were burning the sanctuaries of God in the land where they met with the daughter Zion, 136. It waxed great even to the hosts of heaven, and cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground, stamped upon them. Yea, she magnified herself even to the principal of the host. That's daughter Zion. That's who she channeled through, who she worked through. The Spirit worked through these daughters of Zion. And by her, the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of her sanctuary was cast down. What does it say? It says in verse 4 of Lamentations 2, she has bent her bow like an enemy. She stood with her right hand as an adversary, and slew all that were pleasant to the eye in the tabernacle of the daughter of Zion. So she cast the daughter of Zion down. Daughter Zion is forced to bear the sins of what the harlot does. These men want the harlot spirit, and so she is cast down. Her power is removed from her. All right? Because man no longer exalts the righteous spirit in his body, they exalt the harlot. And so she's being handed a great host, all right, by mother. And mother's angry, which is called daughter Zion in this passage. Yet she magnified herself even to the principal of the host, and by her the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of her sanctuary was cast down, and an host was given her against the daily sacrifice. So there's the adversary of the righteous spirit. All right? By reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced, and it prospered, and it still is. We're still waiting for those daughters of Zion to come out from amongst the Gentiles, and you see them asleep. And the remnant of Israel shall be among the Gentiles, not Jacob, Israel, shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people as a lioness, Ariel, among the beasts of the forest as a young lioness among the flocks of sheep, who if she go through, both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. Right? And we're told that it is daughter Zion that thresheth the nations. Right? Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, for I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thy host brass. And thou shalt beat in pieces many pieces, and I will consecrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth. So guess who's threshing here? Daughter Zion is the threshing of the nations. She's the judge that goes forth and threshes the nations in judgment. That's in Micah 4 verse 13. Then in Psalm 110, and for those who don't think I'm hitting this right, It's simply because you're not going in and looking at it. What does it say in Psalm 110? What does mother say to her son who's sitting to her right hand? She says in verse 2, the Lord shall send the rod of thy strength out of Zion. Rule thou in the midst of thine enemies. How does Christ rule here? Through the daughter Zion, the righteous spirit restored back to her rightful place as the ruler of the body. Got it? No, I'm wrong. Because men want to be exalted. Women have been forced to birth wind, empty doctrines, so the men could be exalted in the earth. And it's going to be a hard, I think, pull for a little while until the power of God begins to back up these daughters and they actually see it with their own eyes. Verse 6, it says, she shall judge among the heathen. All right, this is the Lord, which is 136 that sits to Christ's right hand in Psalm 110. The Lord at thy right hand shall strike through kings in the day of her wrath. That's daughter Zion. She's the rod of his strength out of Zion. It is daughter Zion. She is the power of the body. She is the stronghold of the body, and she is promised to be restored. The dominion is promised to be restored back to her, and it was through Christ. All right? He restores the righteous spirit back to her rightful place. She shall judge among the heathen. She shall fill the places with the dead body. She shall wound the heads of, what does it say? Heads over many countries. She shall drink of the brook in the way. Therefore shall she lift up the head. The head is daughter Zion. She's your spirit. The head is the spirit and the head of the body. And she governs it. And man kicked her out. Exalted the harlot. The harlot was given a host, right? And here in Lamentations 2, she's cast down to the ground. Let's continue reading. Verse 10. The elders of the daughter of Zion sit upon the ground and keep silence. They have cast up dust upon their heads. They have girded themselves with sackcloth. The virgins of Jerusalem, that's also another term for the daughters of Zion, hang down their heads to the ground. Verse 11, mine eyes do fail with tears, my bowels are troubled, my liver is poured upon the earth, for the destruction of the daughter of my people, because the children and the suckling swoon in the streets of the city. All right, verse 12. They say to their mothers, where's corn and wine? When they swooned as the wounded in the streets of the city, when their soul was poured out into their mother's bosom. Verse 13, what thing shall I take up to witness for thee? What thing shall I liken to thee, O daughter of Jerusalem? What shall I equal to thee that I may comfort thee, O virgin daughter of Zion? For thy breach is great like the sea. Who can heal thee? The breach was the body allowing the harlot in. And it says in Job 30 or 31, now I can't remember what chapter, they pour upon me through the breach in the wall, like a wave, right? So they roll over the righteous daughters who no longer have power anymore. And it says, thy prophets have seen vain and foolish things for thee. Now the men are prophesying great things for you, because they're not real prophets from God. They're false prophets. And they're prophesying in the name of Father, whereas the daughters of Zion prophesied in the name of the Mother. So they're flipping things all around. Thy prophets have seen vain and foolish things for thee, and they have not discovered thine iniquity. Now, this verse takes us back to what they were birthing in Isaiah 26, I think it is. I pulled it up just so I could read it. I can never remember if it's 26 or 46, but I pulled it up here. It says, we were with child, we writhed in labor, but we gave birth to wind. That word for wind there is empty doctrines, lies. We have not brought salvation to the earth, a deliverance in the earth, and the people of the world have not come to life. You see what they're saying here? And that's the daughters of Zion that were cast down. You getting that? Which is a host that you see in Daniel 8. All right? And then the prophets prophesy lies. And the daughters begin to grab onto this. They are no longer birthing truth. So it says, Thy prophets have seen vain and foolish things for thee, and they have not discovered thine iniquity, to turn away thy captivity. So they're not telling us what we need to know to deliver our children, all right? To turn away thy captivity. But there comes a time when Mother says, tell the daughter Zion that her, what's the word? I forget. She has fulfilled her oath to me. That she is no longer under bondage to me. That she is no longer bearing sins. That she is free now. Okay? But it says, your prophets, they prophesy false things. They're telling you false doctrines, is what they're telling you. And you'll never birth the children through lies. To turn away thy captivity, to take the yoke off of us, to stop us from writhing in pain, to allow us to bring forth a deliverance in the earth, and the people of the world to come to life. All right? But have seen for thee false burdens. They lay burdens upon us, and causes a banishment of the righteous daughters of Zion. Verse 15. All that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, is this a city that men called the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? So here she's become a byword. We talked about that in the last video. She has now become a byword to the wicked men. All right? Who she was beautiful. She was the perfection of beauty, the daughter of Zion was. And they tore her down. They didn't want her. They wanted her covenant with the harlot. All thine enemies has opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash the teeth. They say, we have swallowed her up. Certainly, this is the day that we looked for. We have found, we have seen it. Verse 17. The Lord had done that which she had devised. She has fulfilled her word that she had commanded in the days of old. That's a good term, of old. I like that. She has thrown down. She hath not pitied. She hath caused thine enemy to rejoice over thee, and she has set up the horn of thine adversary. There we go. That's the horn of the harlot. The harlot is the horn. And Adam, fallen Adam, cast off a covenant with the righteous spirit represented by the daughter Zion for a covenant with the harlot spirit that exalts him. All right, forgets all about her. And that's the horn exalted that takes control in the heavens, that is now handed over the great host, and truth is cast down to the ground. Verse 18, their heart cried unto the Lord, O wail, O wall of the daughter of Zion. Let tears run down like a river, day and night. Give thyself no rest. Let not the apple of thine eye cease. So the apple of God's eye is daughter Zion. Another word for her is Israel. They're the ones that she, that's her apple of her eye, her pupils. They're her star pupils. They're the ones that she worked through to bring the truth of heaven to them. All right, and that's how you have eternal life, through these daughters who birth truth. Arise. Okay, now when you see that lamenting, let your eyes cry day and night, you're going to see that in Jeremiah 6 and 9. Those are repeat chapters, and it's all about the daughters of Zion who were cast down. All right. Verse 19, arise, cry out in the night, in the beginning of the watches, pour out thine heart like water before the face of the Lord. Lift up thine hands towards her for the life of thy young children that faint for hunger in the top of every street. Behold, O Lord, and consider to whom thou hast done this. Shall the women eat their fruit, and the children of a span long? Shall the priest and the prophet be slain in the sanctuary of the Lord? The young and the old lie in the ground. In the street my virgins and my young men are fallen by the sword that has slain them in the day of thine anger, that has killed and not pitied. Thou hast called as in a solemn day my terrors round about, so that in the day of the Lord's anger none escape nor remain. Those that I have swaddled and brought up have mine enemy consumed. You see that? Have mine enemy consumed. So she took care of these daughters. She swaddled them. They were her children. She loved them. And she worked through them. And they were cast down when man rejected a covenant with her. And you see that in Zechariah 11 being broken. Now, we were looking at the color black yesterday. And she says, look not upon me, right? The Shulamite says this. All right. She says, I've been forced to take care of his vineyard, their vineyard, but my own I have neglected. Now, black means to be without truth. It means to be in a dry land with no water, with no doctrine of truth. All right. She was cast into a desert land where there was no water to water her. And so your reference is that she becomes black, she becomes dried up. But you get an allegory to what that truly means to God in Lamentations. Let's go there. I was just there and I lost it that fast. Lamentations, and this is where we get the allegory of what God is referencing here. All right? 4, and we'll start at verse 7. All right? So it says, her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. Well, does God mean they were white? They were whiter than milk. They were more ruddy in body than rubies. Their polishing was of sapphire. So God's talking about beauty here, talking about light, all right, talking about truth. But watch when they don't listen to God. Watch when the truth is missing, when the water is missing, when they're in the desert land, when they begin to hunger for the truth. Watch what happens. It says, their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleaveth to their bones. It is withered, it is become like a stick. You see? So God ain't talking about the color of God's people. God's talking about, if you're following me, you are like light. You are purer than snow. You are whiter than milk. They were more ruddy in body than rubies. And verse 8, when they're not listening, their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleaveth to their bones. It is withered, it is become like a stick. So you're looking at an allegory. All right? That's what you're looking at. God is no respecter of person. Certainly not based on color. That's certainly not what God would ever teach us. And famine, when famine would take hold, they would become black. They would wither away. It's an allegory to mourning, to be in darkness, to be in blackness, to be without the truth. That's an allegory. All right? So you're not looking at the color of skin so much as God is telling you that when this daughter was forced to take care of the vineyards, that she became without truth. Right? And so you get your allegory to black here. All right? And Song of Songs. So we'll finish up on this note. It says, look not upon me because I am black, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard, but my own vineyard have I not kept. Now watch what it says in Isaiah 26, verse 18. We were with child. We writhed in labor, but we gave birth to wind. Empty doctrines. Right? We were in darkness. We were in blackness. They stole the truth from us. We have not brought salvation, deliverance of the children in the earth. And the people of the world have not come back to life. They have not been restored back to life, because it is the truth of the Spirit given in covenant with the words of heaven that restores you back to eternal life. That's what we're shown. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So there you're getting deeper into allegory, and you're only going to understand it when you begin to piece these passages together. I don't know how you can't say that it's clearly the daughter of Zion that was cast down. She's called the commander of the host. She's called your principal. Well, what principles are the world built upon? Look up the word principle. Just Google it, and let's do that. Sorry, I hope that didn't block you. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. But let's just Google it here, if I can, and define. Let's define principle. Okay, define principle. Oops, made a blunder there. Okay. Let's see. A fundamental truth or proposition that serves as, watch this, the foundation for a system of belief or behavior, or for a chain of reasoning. Watch what it gives as an example. The basic principles of Christianity. Synonyms: truth, proposition, concept, idea, theory. So the principle that man exalted in his heart was the harlot, which allows him to write law that puts the righteous principle under bondage. Okay? But what are we told of this principle? Of this mighty prince that's going to stand for Israel? No, that's a lie. They've distorted the truth. They play around with it. And these foxes think they're very clever, who dug out the foundation of truth and packed in the lies. That's what a fox does. It's a burrower. It's something that digs. And that's why in Song of Songs, the son and the mother says, catch for us the foxes that would destroy the vineyard that's in bloom. And then she's called out of the desert, out of the wilderness, and she's given her vineyard back. So now it's time to begin the restoration of the body, to give life back to it. We're looking at actually recreating creation. This is actually how creation is going to be recreated. When you're looking at fire in James, where it says the world will be purified by fire, it's the law of heaven. And it's these daughters that go forth. And what does it say of them? In Micah 5, verse 8, and the remnant of Israel shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people as a lioness. Right? But let's go back to 7 first. Micah 5, verse 7. And the remnant of, it says Jacob, it's Israel, shall be in the midst of many people as a dew. What's the dew? It is the doctrine of heaven. Right? When you get doing your study. How do I know that? Well, let's go to Deuteronomy 32. I've been through some of this information before, but we'll go over it because we got a little bit of time here. If I get cut off, I hope I don't get cut off, but I might. I'll just stop the video, so I apologize if I have to do that. 32, it says this. All right. Let's see. It says, give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak. Verse 1. And hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. And they're given by the daughter Zion. 2. My doctrine shall drop as the rain. My speech shall distill as the dew. As the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of the Lord. Ascribe ye greatness unto our God, daughter Zion. And then you have it here in Micah 5. And the remnant of Israel shall be in the midst of many people as a dew, a doctrine, from the Lord, as the showers upon the grass. Tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the Son of Men, who prophesied falsely. Caused her to writhe in pain because she's not been delivering her children. Because she's been going along with empty doctrines. And the remnant of Israel shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people as a lioness among the beasts of the forest, as a young lioness among the flocks of the sheep, who if she go through shall both tread down and tear in pieces, and none can deliver. Thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries. This is her turning the tables. And all thine enemies shall be cut off. So here she receives her vineyards back, she gets her house back, and the daily sacrifice to mother is restored. Now, you can disagree with that. I know you're gonna, a lot of you. You know, it's took me since 2011 to finally come to the deeper truths that the Spirit has been really trying to show me. So, I'm just trying to help you see it. If you can't, you can't. If you don't want to, you don't want to. But if you really are looking for the truth, and you go searching for this, and you get down on your knees, you go to the Spirit, and you say, okay, wiping the board clean, everything I think I know. In Spirit, you're going to fill that board with truth. You're going to show me the truth. I'm not going to go to commentary. I'm not going to go to man. I'm not going to go to the preacher. I'm going to get down on my knees, and I'm going to go to you. And I'm going to get you to show it to me. You show me who I am. Because I don't believe what they're telling me of who I am. It's not reasoning out. It's just not reasoning out. That I'm not made. I'm not the image of God, a female. It's a he. It didn't reason. It never will. So anyway, there's a video, a bit more of another chapter to add to the last that I should have been more thorough in my research, and I wasn't. So thanks for all who has watched the video, took the time to watch it. I appreciate it. I hope the Lord blesses you in all that you are pursuing, and I hope you all have a really nice day.